You see, that's the real threat to democracy, stupid people. That's the threat. Our biggest threat to democracy is stupid people.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
My word, it's a total mystery how she didn't win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are now beginning our descent. Please make sure your seat backs are in the upright position, tray table stowed, and your pickaxes at the ready, for we are off to the salt mines. Yes, Donald Trump has been elected as the 47th president of the United States, sweeping the entire field red with the help of McDonald's, a garbage truck, and a squirrel. That sounds completely insane, doesn't it? The man's the fucking MacGyver of politics. Welcome to 2024, people, the world of the weird and the wacky. Now, this video is going to be a response to a one Raymond Chang on Twitter and a question that he asked that made its way across my timeline. I need to better understand what makes Trumpism and MAGA republicanism so appealing to so many Americans. We know that education and race are major factors. We also know that religion, especially evangelicalism, is a significant factor. But what is so appealing about Trump to half the country? It can't be that it's because he's such a maverick, is it? And he also asked another question about why he gets so many trolls, and I politely explained to him, because I'm such a courteous fellow, naturally, it's because he says stupid shit and asks dumb questions. And I'm not even being an asshole here, that's completely genuine. The work ties in with politics as well as social media, so I'll explain. The place runs on signaling to an in-group, and so they operate on reacting to a certain kind of rhetoric. If you say the wrong thing to the wrong crowd, you'll provoke a bad reaction. And on social media, you guys will notice I operate even in my own comment section like this. If you say something very stupid and show the crowd your intellectual ceiling, you're pretty much inviting the mockery. And that's basically it. But to get back to his original question, what is so attractive about MAGA? Essentially, how did Donald Trump, despite the accusations, slogans, and labels, things that no one's saying gives a flying toss about, win the election? Now, normally I would give an intellectually sophisticated explanation that accompanies my pretentious accent. However, I will forego that for this video and simply go full blunt force trauma. His opponent was a fucking imbecile, and you can't bullshit reality forever. Let's look at Kamala Harris. What did she do right? Moving on, what did she do wrong? Everything. If one were to step back and look at this, this was a woman who got her start having an affair with a San Francisco mayor, opening the doors by opening something else, and worked her way up the ladder through networking of the oral variety. And as Judge Joe Brown pointed out, if that is your skill set, that can only go so far. No one knew who the hell she even was in 2020, despite her having been Attorney General and a Senator for California. And during the 2020 race, all that she was remembered for was Tulsi Gabbard thoroughly derailing her campaign in a single exchange during one of the debates. That should have been the end of her political ambitions, until she was the one selected for VP during a time when DEI was the token merit of the moment. 'Cause why not? She already didn't have any competent qualifications. What could even more useless box-ticking possibly do? Oh wait, she found out after one too many cackles landed herself on the shelf and out of the public eye for months on end. It wasn't until Biden's disastrous debate performance, and you will notice Biden is suspiciously fine now for some bizarre reason, that she was dusted off and reintroduced to the public, that largely forgot she even existed. And if you go look back, the very first video I did on this channel, which was her talking about the border, you will notice she learned absolutely nothing. She was the spare wheel that couldn't spare a fucking thought if her damn life depended on it. She had to separate herself from an administration whilst also failing to make the case of how she would be any different and why she didn't make any of those changes in the last 4 years. A tall order indeed. It was pretty clear to anyone paying attention this woman was arguably the most incompetent candidate America has ever seen, and the Trump train was revving up to utterly destroy her. She was a woman, which, believe me, is a hindrance, and it should be. Women should not hold any authority over men ever. I don't care what anybody says. She had no charisma, No personality, no policies whatsoever. And every time she went in front of a camera, she gained nothing except more people realizing what a train wreck she is. Which is not exactly a helpful trait if your job involves talking to the public and making the case for why you should run the nation. She was worse than her opposition in literally every single metric except maybe for age. Never mind the elephant in the room, the media had its head so far up its ass and decided to gaslight the public into believing they aren't reeking of shite. Harris will be forgotten. However, her campaign should forever be archived as a playbook of what not to do, seeing as it reads like a cavalcade of paraplegic fuck-ups. That and the fossilized bones of media in Hollywood proved utterly impotent with moving the needle. Like this. Welcome to White Dudes for Harris, the tampon edition.
So to the men who love us, let me just try to paint a picture of what it will feel like if America, the wealthiest nation on earth, keeps revoking basic care from its women, and how it will affect every single woman in your life.
Hey men, let me explain to you how the most important thing about this election is how it will affect the vaginas of the ovarian ones around you. My word, it's a mystery how Trump won, isn't it? Her performance was so disastrous it actually makes me question into what category I'd like to file it. Either an effort with an incompetence level more loaded than Cheech Marin, or keeping up appearances for the sake of procedure whilst everyone around her knew she was going to get mauled into irrelevancy. Contrast all of that with Donald Trump, who proved himself to be the grand poobah of publicity. Winning the optics war so overwhelmingly, Harris wasn't even really there, hence the suggestion she was just there for the sake of keeping up appearances. The mugshot was the domino that got the storm rolling, and it just got bigger every time Kamala Harris went in front of a camera, which doesn't exactly bolster your chances if you're running for president. You're trying to be different than the guy who did that in the last election, and who also happens to be your boss. Fun times. Donald Trump was not only crushing the optics war, he was objectively better than her in every conceivable way, and he was already the president. He had the easiest pitch. Under who are you better off? I'll give you a hint, it's not her. Trump was the face of the comeback outlaw, wronged and shaking off a seemingly never-ending barrage of arrows tainted with the stench of corruption, and he just kept on moving, undeterred. Even getting shot at, all it did was greatly bolster his image, giving us an iconic piece of American history that most importantly offered us a glimpse of something Kamala Harris could never muster no matter how much money was thrown at her: authenticity. That is ultimately the biggest selling point of the Trump brand. It's real. Everything on their side epitomized the organs of a rapidly aging and outdated mode of narrative weaving, the plastic decay of an increasingly irrelevant Hollywood, mindless news pundits screeching about authoritarianism and abortion, versus the other side who was concerned with everything else. Viewed from that perspective, like academic agents said, she was a jobber. She was there to lose. The other side of all of this was the cultural side, which will be helpfully explained to us by someone who bizarrely is right for once in his life.
There is a massive amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center-right to, I wouldn't say far-right in the same way that it was back in like the 2016 era at the end of like Obama's administration, but like definitely center-right to Trumpian right.
Now, one of my favorite quotes by Yavin is, "The permanent enemy of leftism is reality." So allow me to hammer this home as bluntly as I possibly can. Anyone and anything remotely associated with leftism in any form is a worthless cog made of nothing but useless fail. Men, first and foremost, want to feel needed, to have a sense of purpose and function. And considering men build and maintain civilization, you cannot run a society that alienates men and tells them to revere a sex that without them would accomplish nothing. Denigrating those who keep your society going, you know, the garbage men, the electricians, plumbers, mechanics, oil workers, farmers, firemen, law enforcement, truck drivers, etc., is a really, really stupid idea. The reality is, leftism will always fail and die repeatedly because it has nothing to offer men. On the one hand, we had Kamala Harris, who embodies everything that is wrong with Western civilization. A DEI hire. She was branded as by the so-called president, by the way. A childless woman of color with a history of promotion through the use of flesh-ridden escapades, capitalizing on a reality-defying fad, propping her up on a pedestal hollower than a skull, and yes, I did want to say hollower than something else, which became increasingly more transparent every time a microphone found its way near her face. And despite having every advantage afforded to her, would relegate herself to only going on networks that treated her with kid gloves, seeing as the moment she was offered a question heavier than a damn marshmallow would implode harder than Hiroshima. A woman who was damn near unable to formulate a coherent sentence when there wasn't words in front of her very eyes. Contrast that with a father of four who received the distinguished honor of being the first president with a mugshot and also to get shot at, who would go into any hostile territory and bizarrely outnumbered still would come out the winner. The one could sit down with anyone and still have a normal conversation for over 3 hours. Meanwhile, the other one could have mustered 3 bloody minutes without making more errors than a leftist trying to define woman. To sum it up thusly, you lost because you ran, boring, bumbling, and bitch up against brains, bravado, and balls. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.